Hi, I'm Jeannie Lauren Dowden for Conduit News. We have Joey McCutcheon joining us. Joey is an attorney and FOIA advocate in Fort Smith. He's here to talk to us about the FOIA bill that will be filed for the special session. Governor Sarah Sanders made the official call for the special session to begin this coming Monday. Joey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You've had a chance to look over the bill. That is the lead sponsor is Representative David Ray. Go ahead and give us your thoughts on that bill.
The bill is simply a bill that will decimate our open meetings in Arkansas, our open records in Arkansas. There's absolutely no question about that. Government will proceed to do its business in secrecy. That's anti-freedom, and it's very disturbing that the Republican Party in Arkansas would be behind this. They throw out security as the reason for this. I've been told that by a legislator that that was simply a smokescreen. He was told that the real reason are these other reasons. They're deliberative process exemption. They're the attorney-client privilege, and they're doing away with attorney fees for the people who need them the most.
Yeah, and that's a legislator told you that.
Yes, a legislator told me that.
Yeah,
they've been lining up their votes. I've been told by numerous legislators that they've been lining up their votes. I can tell you, Winthrop Rockefeller, our Republican governor in 1967, who battled a Democratic-controlled legislature, would roll over in his grave if he heard what was happening with our FOIA. And that is no hyperbole. I'm not speaking in hyperbole. I'm speaking the truth. And every citizen out there, FOIA is not a Republican issue or a Democrat issue or a conservative issue or a liberal issue. It's a freedom issue, and it's worth fighting for. And the citizens are not going down without a fight on this issue.
Yeah, when the governor had her presser today, she outlined the three main points for the special session. She said cutting taxes, streamlining state government, and that is where FOIA falls in. And then the third was protecting Arkansans' freedom. And I thought, man, that's really interesting because it feels kind of like a dark day for Arkansans and for our freedom, as if that's really going to be taken away in a sense if this bill passes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that open government with respect to records is a thing of the past. This deliberative process that they keep on touting is the federal law. Like, that's impressive to me.
Yeah.
A federal law that has been used 81,752 times in 1 year to deny records to the people. An exemption, Jenny, that California proudly touts. Let me ask this question to the governor and Representative Ray. What if Gavin Newsom was the president or was the governor of Arkansas and he proposed this bill which would gut open records in Arkansas?
Yeah.
What would we be hearing? Would Republican legislators be signing on to this bill right and left like it's of no consequence? Like what's there to be disturbed about? But I'd like to talk about the specific points.
Yeah. Let's listen to the press conference and then just going over the bill and then having so many different conversations. There's so much, Joey, when you really think about it. I'm trying to get all my notes together, but and you mentioned the deliberative process and what's in the bill, and then citing the federal example. And at one point, the governor, whom I like and whom I voted for, she was like, "That's crazy." I mean, this is, we're using this as we're basically copying the federal example. And I thought, is that a good thing? I couldn't help but remember what
let
you
me let me
said.
say this. Let me say this, Jenny. It's a good thing if you like every single ounce of the power being in the bureaucrats. If you
Yeah,
like every ounce of power being in government agencies and bureaucrats and politicians, then it's a great bill. Because what this exemption does is it says that we cannot see any of the sausage making. We cannot see who, let's just say, for example, that DHS wants to decrease the budget for our elderly folks in our nursing homes, and they
right.
want to transfer that money to some other state agency. We never see, if the power brokers out there, who's involved in that discussion. We never see the amount, but what we get to see is the final decision. That's all we get to see.
That's
We
right.
get to see what we already get to see. We don't
So
get to see the abuse.
So here's what a reporter asked about that process, and they said, "Is this going to be a huge exemption? Exemption? What about any access?" And she said, "That's ridiculous. We're mirroring the federal language, upheld. We're up that copying is being upheld verbatim." And I couldn't help but I wrote down, "Is she gaslighting us?" And I pulled up the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, and here's what they said. They said regarding use and abuse, and this is you have mentioned this, and Steinmuck mentioned this, and they said, quote, "The deliberative process privilege is widely considered to be one of the most abused bases for denying access to information. Among transparency advocates and members of the press, it has become known as the, quote, withhold it because you want to privilege, reflecting how government agencies have used it to dodge disclosing embarrassing or politically inconvenient records."
That's exactly what it is. It's hiding the public's business from the public. So here's what I would suggest, that if any Republican legislator or any other legislator votes for this, look, FOIA is not a Republican issue or a Democrat
Yeah.
issue. It's a freedom issue. If they decide to vote for this, then they need to kick to the curb the 1967 legislative intent, which says that public business should be conducted in an open and public manner. Because what we get now are a bunch of bureaucrats in Little Rock who are going to have all the power. We're not going to get to watch them. We're not going to see the sausage making. We're going to see the final result. And I'll tell you this, we're following not, they want to tout the feds. Is the federal government the bloated
Right.
bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., who we want to emulate? What
Right.
about the other state who has this exemption? California.
Yeah.
Gavin in California have this. This exemption it's been quoted as being the most abused exemption in the U.S. federal process.
Yeah.
And it is
Yeah.
81,000 times in 2013.
Yeah.
An average of over 61,000 times governments telling citizens, the people, this is the people's law. Let's not forget that.
Right. And
61,000 times every year, government says, no, citizen, you can't have that record. And most citizens can't afford to pay a lawyer, and they've even attacked the attorney fee provision.
I want to get
Although,
I want to get
okay,
to that.
sure.
I want to get to that. I want to go through the bill as a whole, and kind of break down all of these things that are thrown into the bill. But this is all about security, right? So I want to kind of break it down and see why these things are included, even though this is about the security of the governor and her family. But I want to understand.
Well, I think you say that facetiously, because look, let me say as a premise, I want security for the governor. If this
100%.
bill is about security of this bill is not about security for the governor. If so, they would have a separate bill for security, and then a separate bill for all these other dark ideas they have in this bill.
Right.
And but what this bill is about in terms of security, it's about look, Matt Campbell with the Blue Hog is a liberal Democrat. But FOIA but what he has done here has asked for records of the government's travel on airplanes to foreign countries and who's with. And he got all the information except the expenditures. And we are entitled, that every conservative out there should say, we're not entitled to know how much the governor is charging for travel over to Europe, and the fact that she is taking 5 members of the Arkansas State Police with her. We're not entitled to see that. And they violated FOIA. Clearly, the FOIA was violated. Now they want to make this bill retroactive. What are we hiding here?
Yeah.
This is just incensing.
Yeah. I think the thing that where you and I fall, we fall this in the same way. Let it stand regardless of where you fall on either side of the aisle, right? Like Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, they fly all over the world. Their family flies. We want to know that just the same way as, the Democrats want to know where Governor Sanders is flying, if she is with her family, who is she taking? That's fair game. That is on the taxpayers' dime. Like, I think that's fair to say, you know what? Yes, you can ask those things. That is fair. And I don't have a problem with people knowing that. So yeah, I think that is a fair ask. But like you said, in this bill, if it's truly about security, I think that we all want the governor and her family. I have small children. I can't imagine ever wanting our kids to be at risk. I don't think that's, I can't imagine, but let that be in a separate bill, right? Don't gut and don't gut something that we've had for decades, where it takes a knife to transparency for we the people. That's just something that I think a lot of people are having a hard time with. All right, so let's go through this bill. We've talked about deliberative process. Let's talk about let's see what's next in this section.
Well, it starts off with the deliberative process, which again will not allow us to see any of the sausage making. I mean, government bureaucrats can do what they want to do without us seeing anything until the final decision is made. That's the reason they cite the Supreme Court case. And
I did appreciate there were questions in the press conference today. People were asking, okay, so what about will we know amongst government agencies, within departments, if budget questions are made? Will we know about that? And I think that that's a very fair ask. And I didn't really hear a definitive answer about that.
Well, let me give you the definitive answer. The definitive answer is right here in this bill, and it says, no, we will not hear about advisory opinions, recommendations. So if the DHS, through the power brokers in Little Rock, want to defund the nursing home budget to put it somewhere else, we'll never know about that on the front end. We'll know about it when we see the final decision, but we'll never know about wrongful conduct. We'll never know about embarrassing statements that we should know about. And therefore, there will be no accountability. There will be zero accountability, and the public trust will be undermined. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, if they railroad this bill through, I'm going to be the one who files a constitutional amendment. I'm going to push for a constitutional amendment, because I can tell you, the people will back a constitutional amendment that protects their Freedom of Information Act and holding government accountable through light and sunshine. Yeah. And but they don't want to take this to the people. Yeah. They want to give it to us on Thursday night, and then hold their meeting on Monday morning, give us about 15 minutes to talk about it, have their votes already lined up, which it's clear they have some votes already lined up. But I think legislators are going to feel the heat of the people. And that's why I'm asking every person on this call, every person on this Zoom, to contact your legislator and tell them this is bad news, and we want open government, because that creates that creates accountability. Can I give an example here, Jenny?
Yeah.
You've heard of a fellow by the name of Jerry Sandusky, who was a coach at Penn State University, who abused child after child after child. Well, guess why? Because they had FOIA exemptions that would not allow the public to get records. And so you might as well call this bill the Jerry Sandusky Child Molestation Protection Act. And if that happens, because look, we've had it happen on a local level at Huntsville. I was involved in that case. And without FOIA, without the ability to secure documents, we would never know what happened in that case. And that will happen again. And it'll happen on the state level. And that's just one example of when you have zero accountability over these agencies, and they're exempt from the process, the sausage making. This is what happens. So I ask legislators that they better understand that.
What would be like just trying to give the government and those who are sponsors of, or the governor and those who are sponsors of this bill, the benefit of the doubt? What would be the reason, if you can think of one, for this bill? If they say that it's the safety, I've seen where some have said, is the safety of the governor and her family and her children, is that not reason enough to reform the FOIA law? What would you say to that?
Well, I would say, number one, we can do a bill that addresses the security issue.
Yeah.
That holds the governor accountable for her travels, that shows us what the expenses are, which they're trying to hide, which shows who she's traveling over to Europe with. We can do one bill on that issue. Number one, you don't bring a special session. And I've been told by a legislator that the reason for this was security. We can do a bill that protects the governor's security, which we absolutely should, if her security is in or children's security is at jeopardy. Hey, I'm 100% behind that. But all these other, this bill, make no mistake about it, this bill was brought because they lost in the session. Representative David Ray pushed the bill to have the deliberative process and other ideas that would have destroyed, and they didn't get it through the session. They ran it the last weeks of the session, last week or two of the session. So this is what this is about. This is about hiding government business from the public, period. And they accomplish that if we can't see the process. They accomplish that by the second part of this bill, which is probably the scariest, is this attorney-client privilege exemption. They just CC it. Yeah, they just CC it to their lawyer, or they have their lawyers draw up these controversial issues. Maybe it's a huge fiscal expense. Maybe it's some kind of a child abuse that's occurring, like at Penn State. Take your pick. Maybe it's an issue that we tried up in Fayetteville. Maybe it could be any important issue, and they just have the lawyer draft up all the documents, and it's protected. That we'll never see it. They CC their and say, oh, we're anticipating a lawsuit, and they use that term, anticipation of litigation. It's broad enough to drive a Mack truck through, and they can hide their business from us in an instant by including their high-priced lawyers. And that's the third part of the bill, the part that Representative Ray talked about today. Now, you didn't hear Representative Ray talk about the government lawyers who, for example, in the Huntsville case, charged in excess of $29,000. They don't talk about that side. No, what they want to do, what they're doing with this bill is a bill was drafted which allowed attorney fees for the common man out here, the person who asked for records and is denied records, like critical race theory up in Fayetteville, which under the new version of attorney fees, Isla Campbell, who found that there was critical race theory going on up in Fayetteville through FOIA request. Again, we would probably never even see those records.
Yeah.
But we would be denied attorney fees because they ended up giving the records. So they create this high standard that you've got to find that it's arbitrary or in bad faith, and so you substantially prevail. So when they give us the records after we file the lawsuit, we wouldn't be entitled to attorney fees. It's not about my attorney fee. I haven't collected attorney fees, but very few times, only recently. But what they're going to do is have a chilling effect on the lawsuits. They know that. They know people can't afford to hire a lawyer.
I couldn't help but think when I watched the press conference that it was pretty somber. And listening to you talk, it can be discouraging. Anything, what could you say to us that could be a bright light, or something? I don't know, man. Joey, this is pretty discouraging. If you're
Well,
on the side of,
it's a sad
yeah,
day in
yeah,
Arkansas that this bill has
yeah,
even been filed.
yeah,
But what would be a bright light is that
it
that
hasn't passed yet.
we have government by the people,
That's right.
for the people,
Yeah,
and not government by the government and for the government.
yeah,
And this bill is a government bill. It's
yeah.
just like Representative Womack said back in the last session when
Mhm.
two bills were filed that would have destroyed FOIA.
Mhm.
Literally, they filed a bill that would have destroyed open meetings and open records, which the legislators voted down. They act like it's a foregone conclusion that this thing is going to sail right through. I'm not sure that's the case, because I think the people are going to revolt. I think the people are going to protest. And I think legislators they need to understand what's in this bill. And if they have
Right.
any questions, I'm happy to tell them. But maybe they should go to the Attorney General's office and ask him what's in this bill. You know, go get some advice on what's in this bill and what it would do. Because when they say that the deliberative process exemption would allow us to know recommendations in state agency budgets or other advisory, that's just false. We're not going to know any of that stuff. We're going to have lawyers popping out of the woodwork who are going to be creating documents, and they're going to claim attorney-client privilege. And we're going to have more corruption in Arkansas. We've seen our fair share of corruption in Arkansas. And you know what? FOIA has been a large part, has exposed that corruption. So the conservative people, the liberal people, and freedom-loving people in this state needs to step up. Patrick Henry said it best. We got to guard this jewel. We guard with the jealous attention to public liberty. Suspect anyone who approaches that jewel. And Mr. Ray, Representative Ray, he's approached that jewel. Efficiency is another code word for we're going to weaken FOIA so that we can hide our public business. And just remember, Jenny, this isn't a bright light, let me say, but it don't stop here. Our Attorney General had his first working group meeting this morning. You think it's a coincidence that he had his working group that they're going to propose in the working group? I'm sure the next step will be they'll gut open meetings. They'll say that school boards across the state can 1/3 of them can meet, and then 2 of them can meet with another one, and we can have multi-million-dollar projects at the quorum court. 1/3 of them can meet in secret. That's what they tried last legislative session, and it made it through the House. Yeah. So this is a slippery slope.
Absolutely.
We're going to go from a state with the strongest FOIA to the weakest FOIA overnight. And that ain't hyperbole, Mr. Attorney General. That is not hyperbole. I've been accused by Tim. Tim's a friend of mine. We agree on a lot of issues, but he accuses me of hyperbole on this issue. This bill belongs in the dumpster, and Republicans who are going to be passing this thing, because they've been lining up their votes for a while now. They're wasting our taxpayer dollars, taking away our freedom down in Little Rock the next 2 days. I'm all for tax cuts. We need to, we've got a bloated $1 billion surplus. We need more than tax cuts, I'll tell you that. But but we're going after the people in this. We are weaponizing government against the people. I'm using a word that they have coined, weaponizing. They are weaponizing government and government bureaucrats against the people in this bill, period.
The governor said that this is about stopping the weaponization and harassment of FOIA.
Yeah, well, what this is weaponizing government against the people. It's government by the people, and it's government by the government and for the government. I mean, you can't defend what's going on here.
Yeah.
I mean, the deliberative process is what it's designed to do is they don't want us seeing the discussion so that they can have a free and robust discussion in the back halls of the Capitol and in these bureaucratic rooms that they create, and we never see the discussion.
Right.
And the same reason they advance for it is the reason we should all be against it.
Yeah.
This is going to create secrecy in Arkansas and corruption and and the fingerprints of the Republicans in this legislative session will be all over it unless they come to their senses and realize, are they for the people or for the governor? And maybe one of them will say, let's send this to the FOIA task force and let's create a great FOIA bill to address the governor's security concerns. Let's leave out all of this other that creates darkness in Arkansas government.
Absolutely. Well, I hope they take that advice. Joey, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
All right.